Hey everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru Review number 120. Today I'm going to talk about Android Netrunner. This is just released Gen Con this year, 2012. It's actually sort of a re-release or remake of a game designed by Richard Garfield, the guy that designed Magic. I believe that original Netrunner was in 1996, so it's been several years here. So this is a living card game. It's not a trading card game per se. Now in this box you basically get 7 decks out of the box, and then in between games you can deck build and make your own decks, customize them for a meta game either within your group or maybe in a tournament scene if this takes off at all. But you are basically, let's say, 20 cards short of being able to just buy 2 boxes and then have all the cards you need. So a deck will consist of 3 cards maximum that you can have of a copy. So I can have 3 of the whatever card, right? And so some of these cards only have 1 copy in there. So to get every card that you need, you actually need to buy 3 sets. So it's kind of unfortunate in that sense that they didn't include those like 20 extra cards just so you can only buy 2. So I'm not sure what the cost breakdown is. So that's really my only disappointment with the game, though. So let me show you how it plays. It's very different from other trading card games. Most trading card games you have 2 sides that could be the same, and they're going to play the same, and you're basically going to do battle most of the time. Now this is a little bit different, where you have one side as a corporation deck and the other side is a runner deck, and they're sort of like hackers trying to hack into the corporation deck. So like in tournament play, you basically will bring with you a corporation deck and a runner deck of your own, and then you'll play your runner against your opponent's corporation, and then play your corporation against the opponent's runner, and then add up all the points. So let me jump into how it works, and then I'll come back and tell you more what I think. Okay, so here's everything you're going to get in the box of Netrunner. Like I said, there's 7 decks that you can start with, and these are sort of like starter decks. So that you do get a lot actually in the box. So each of these decks is going to be sort of dictated by an identity card. So here is a runner card, and you can see it's an identity, and then each of these have a special ability. In addition to that, on each of these we'll have 2 numbers here. So you have 45 and then 15 for this chick here. So what this means is you need a minimum of 45 cards in the deck when you're constructing a deck with this identity, and then you have 15 influence. So what that means is if you want to put in cards that are not of her faction, so to speak. So she is a faction of this type, and I forget the name. And so you can put in any cards of this type, like so. You can see this got the icon there, and also any neutral cards. So the game also comes with a bunch of neutral cards for the runners, which are all red backed, and a bunch of neutral cards for the corporations. So the corporations all have blue back cards. Now you'll never mix any corporation cards into a runner deck and vice versa. So the other thing to keep in mind is this influence number here, this 15 now. Now you can actually mix in cards from these other factions here. And if we take a look at one of the faction specific cards, you can maybe see these little dots here. So this one would cost 1 influence to mix it into another runner's deck. And this one's 1 influence, and then some of these, this one's like 3, so that's a little bit stronger of a card. So as long as they're with an identity of their own faction, they're fine. You can just put them in there. But they're going to cost influence to include them in somebody else's deck. And so just another example of an identity here. You can see Kate here has a 45 card minimum and then 15 influence. So these decks are never, like I said, never going to be mixed. And so all the runner decks have cards that are specific to runner, specific to the runner actions here. You can see each side comes with a little action chart, and the corporation one is here. So you can do some similar actions, but a lot of the actions that you can do with a corporation you can't do with a runner, and vice versa. Also, we've got some chits here. These are some special markers. I'll talk about these in a second. And then you've got these money markers here, credits. And these were known as bits in the original game. So you can see here's 1 credit. Now the 1 credit ones are actually double-sided, and these are activation tokens, so you can use them for either one. And so the corporation will be using these to activate agendas, which is how they score points. And then you've got a pretty beefy rule book here. It's actually really well written. It's pretty long for a trading card game, and it's got lots of examples, lots of setup. One really cool thing is it has a nice index here. So if you forget what I don't know, like what the heap is or what hosting means, you can just look it up and it'll tell you where to go look for it in here. And then it's got some flow charts here to sort of show you how certain actions will work. Very well done, nicely illustrated, all that good stuff. So let me show you quickly how the corporation will play and then how the runner will play against the corporation to give you an idea how the game's going to work. It's quite a bit different than most trading card games and two-player battle games. So let me jump into that real quick. Okay, so to start the game, the corporation is going to get 5 credits. You get this little chart here, and you can basically get 3 actions on your turn. And you'll draw a hand of 5 cards, and then you'll put your identity out and then your deck. So for purposes of the game text on the cards, this is known as R&D, or research and development. So if something targets R&D, it's basically targeting your deck. In the hand is known as HQ. And so on your turn, what you're going to be doing is a lot of different actions. But the thing to keep in mind as the corporation is you're going to need to protect these different things. And so these are actually known as servers, so to speak. So this is your R&D server, this is your HQ server, and then you're going to build remote servers out here. And those are going to be getting attacked, but you're also going to be trying to use them to sort of counterattack the runner. So the goal of the game for both sides is to take control of these agendas here. And you can see the card types, it's got different things: operation, another agenda, and these are called ICE. I'll explain those in a minute. Another operation, there's an asset, and then you've got upgrades as well. On these agendas, you can see the number of points there that the agenda is worth. So if I'm able to advance this agenda and basically commit it and put it into the universe, so to speak, I'm going to score these points too. And if the runner captures the agenda before I can get it out, then he's going to get 2 points. And the first one to get the 7 points wins. So when you get a run done on you, and this is the whole crux of the game, is having runs done against you or defending the runs, and if you're the runner, attacking with the runs, then you're going to do damage to the corporation. So you can actually have runs done directly against your deck. So if a run succeeds, you're going to be able to basically, you have to show the card to the runner, and he's going to either trash it or he's going to be able to capture it. So if there's an agenda sitting here, he'd actually just get it like that. So it's random, but early in the game, the runner may try to do that just to, burn through the deck as well. Because if the corporation never gets decked or runs out of cards in their deck, then they also lose. Likewise, you can have a run done against your hand. So you've got a hand of 5, and if they run basically against the identity here, this is just sort of a marker. They say, I'm doing a run on your HQ or your hand. Then if they succeed, they'll take a random card out of your hand, and you better hope it's not an agenda, because they'll score that right away. So to start your turn, the corporation always has to draw cards, so they're always moving through this deck no matter what. So you always will draw 1 card, and then you can take 3 actions and use this little marker here to do the actions. So what are the actions? So you can see on the summary card here, it shows you all the different actions you can do. And this little time marker here basically means this costs 1 action. So I could spend an action here and just draw a card from R&D. Next, I could spend an action and gain a credit. So I'd add a new credit. Now credits are going to be very important. You definitely have to build up an economic engine in this game, but for both sides. Because you're going to be spending credits for defense if you're the corporation, and for attack if you're the runner. And the next thing is here you can install an agenda, asset, or upgrade, or a piece of ice, and that's installing a card. And I'll talk about that in a second. Next thing is playing an operation. So if I were to play this operation, it will also cost me an action and also cost me 4 credits. And then you can see this one here will actually give me 2 actions back. And the operations do all kinds of different things. They're just like, instant effects. Here's one here, it costs 1 credit and an action. It says immediately install up to 3 cards, spending no clicks, and that's what the actions are called, are clicks. But paying all in costs instead, so that I can get a bunch of stuff out with this card. So they do all kinds of different stuff, all the different decks. There's just tons of crazy cards. The next thing here is you can spend 3 clicks, all 3 of your actions, to purge any virus counters. So if, certain types of runner decks will put virus counters on you. And this one is you spend a click or an action, spend $2, and then trash 1 resource. And I'll explain what the resources are when I go over the runner decks. But you can basically blow up some of the stuff they set up, some of their supporting cards. So mostly what you're going to be doing is installing agendas, assets, upgrades, and pieces of ice. So let's talk about that. So let's talk about installing a piece of ice here. So this is a piece of ice, and you can see these actually will go in sideways. So to install a card, you're 9 times out of 10 just going to place it face down and put it there. Now the ice is always going to be installed horizontally. And you may install a asset here or an agenda, and those will be installed vertically normally. Now ice, what that does, this is really a key aspect of the game, is protect the different servers here from being attacked. So you could put it in front of the identity to protect your hand from getting run against. You could put it in front of your your R&D here, or your deck, to protect that. And in the early game, you may try to do that. So to play it out like that, all it does is cost you an action. So maybe I do one action there and another action here. Now, anytime after an action, or when I'm being run against, I can actually flip this up, and actually it will become active. So if we take a look at this, we can see the cost here in credits is 3. So it's going to cost me 3 to flip that up, and then I'll turn it like so, and this is sort of the strength of the piece of ice. So I'll have that in front of my deck, and then maybe I could flip this one up like that'll cost me 5, and it's got a strength of 4. This is quite a bit better of a one. And it's also got these sub-routines that will do damage and harmful effects back to the runner when they're attacking one of my servers. So another thing I could do would be to install an asset here. And I install that in a remote server. So anytime you create an asset, or in this case here an agenda, I'm going to put that in a remote server. So what the runner's trying to do is he's trying to figure out where I have agendas and try to capture them. So I can put ice again in front of these. I put them face down, and then when I want to res them or flip them up and make them active, I got to pay the cost and credits. So I maybe would do this. I'd put like both of these in front of this one because this is an asset, or excuse me, an agenda. I don't want him to get that. But he also may want to try to capture these assets as well. The assets aren't going to score you any points, but they're going to do some really cool effects here. So you can see this is an asset. It's an advertisement. So when I res it or I activate it, I pay 4. And I'll flip it up and I'll put 12 bucks on it, and then I can take 3 every time my start of my turn, so I get a nice cash injection that way. Now if he attacks it here, and I'll explain how a run works when I do the runner stuff. When he attacks it, if he gets this, he can actually pay 3 credits of himself and trash it, so he can blow this up. Now he's not really going for the assets. Again, he's going for the agendas to score the points, but he may want to get rid of this so that I don't have that cash coming in every time. So here's the agenda as well, and so what you're going to do here is you're going to advance the agenda, and that costs you an action and a card, okay, or a credit. So what I'm going to do, well, if I take that action here, you can see, pay 1 time and then 1 credit and advance a card. So I'm going to do that, pay the action, pay the credit, and I put an advancement token on there. Now you can also advance some assets, so you can actually sort of bluff and put advancement tokens on an asset that can be advanced, and it will be helpful to you, but the runner may think that oh, that is an agenda, so that's the one I'm going to target. I know I'm going to get that and hopefully get the agenda. Now what happens though is if you get enough advancement tokens on here, and so this one requires 3, then something's going to happen when you score this, or this may go into your score pile and get some sort of special effect, and also giving you the 2 points you need for the end of the game. So as an action I could take and advance that. So what you're really trying to do is you may say, why don't I just play an agenda and then advance it and then it'll automatically score? Well, that's not going to work out because you're not going to have enough action to do that. You're going to run out of money. You're not going to have any defense in front of your cards here to prevent the runner who's just going to run the heck out of you. And the runners really should run early and often, because as the corporation builds up their defenses, it's going to become that much harder as the game progresses for the runner to score all of the agendas. So that's really what the corporation does. He gets 3 actions. He's always got to draw a card. He's going to try to build up some kind of engine economically, so he's got lots of credits, and build up some stuff so he can activate these ice to defend the different servers that he's got. Get some agendas out there. Try to bluff, so that it's not obvious where his agendas are and things like that. And then that's pretty much how the corporation works. So now we've got a runner deck here. And again, the runner's going to have their deck, they're going to have their identity, they're going to have a hand of 5 cards to start the game, they're going to get 5 credits to start the game, and the runner actually gets 4 actions. They don't get to draw a free card every turn, but they get an extra action that way. So what the runner's going to be trying to do is set up their rig, and I'll explain some of the cards that go into the rig, but they're going to be programs, resources, pieces of hardware that they're going to use when they make a run against one of the corporation's servers. So let's take a look at what the runner can do. So again, you can pay 1 click or 1 action. You can draw a card from your stack, and this is the stack in this case. So if something says target your stack, that's your deck. If you can pay an action and gain a buck, you can install a program, piece of hardware, or resource, and I'll go over that in a second. You can play an event, and this is sort of like operations. I got an event in here. So this one's actually free to play as far as credits go. and then I can do that so I can gain 2 credits or expose a card. So maybe I could look at a piece of ice or face down card. The next thing is I can pay an action and $2 and remove a tag. And then I can pay $1 and, or excuse me, an action, make a run. Now remember, the corporation could actually trash a resource of mine if I'm tagged. So I can pay basically the same amount an action and to remove a tag so that I don't get my resources trashed. So the way that the runner is going to lose the game, obviously, is if the corporation scores 7 points in agenda first, or I get my brain damaged. And this is sort of like my brain here, my hand. So when I do runs and things like that and have effects played against me, it's going to damage me, and I'm going to remove cards from my hand. So if I ever get damaged and I don't have any cards in my hand, then I'm dead. And you can also have these brain damage counters put on you, which actually reduces your hand limit from 5 down to whatever. So if I had 2 brain damages on me, my hand limit would be 3, which would be horrendous. So again, I can be spending actions to get cards, to get money, and then I'm going to install programs and things like that to help me when I do a run. So the main type of card that's going to help me in a run is a program here. So you can just see this is a daemon program. And you can see there's a little memory chip up here. So I have a certain amount of memory that I'm allowed to use, and typically it's 4, but you can get other cards that will help you increase your overall memory of your program. So this one will actually take up 1 memory space. It'll cost me $2 to play it, and the runner plays all his cards face up. And then I have an effect here that I can use when I take a run. So you can look at some of these other programs here, like this one here. It costs me 5. It takes up a memory slot, and then it has some effects on it that I can use to break different subroutines and things like that. I'll go over that in a minute. And then I can add strength to it. So you can see this is a 0 strength program. And what you do when you do a run is you're actually going to compare the strength of whatever program you're using to encounter the piece of ice. And the ice, remember, has strength on it, like so. So this is actually a weak piece of ice. It's actually got 0 strength. So I'll go over this in a little bit more detail, but the strength is going to be important when I want to encounter the ice and basically deactivate all the nasty stuff it's going to do to me as I'm progressing into, do a run or try to score an agenda or wherever I'm trying to hit. The other 2 types of cards, again, are hardware and resources. So you can see this piece of hardware here will actually increase my memory space by 2, so I can have more programs in my play area here. And then it's got some other effects there. I'm not going to go into all these effects. There's just tons. It's awesome. So here's a resource here, and this will go into its own little row. So you kind of have like a row of resource, a row of hardware, and a row of programs just kind of out in front of you. It's not really that important where you put them. So this is similar to the corporation card I showed you. Place $12 on here, and then I can take, for an action, take $2 off of here. So it's a way to have some money coming in quicker. Now let's talk about how a run's going to work. So I just kind of show you a condensed view of all the cards here. So the corporation's got a card face down. We don't know if it's an asset or an agenda. They got 3 advancement tokens on it, so they're probably pretty close to fully advancing it and scoring it themselves. So the runner's decided to do a run. He's got 2 pieces of ice he's got to contend with. They're face down. We don't know what's going to happen. So he's going to take an action. He's going to say, I'm going to run here on this remote server. So the first thing he's going to do is encounter this piece of ice. Now, he's got this program in front of him, and you can have several programs in front of you that you can use on multiple pieces of ice on parts of the run. So just to show you what this one is, it's got a strength of 3, and it's got a thing that you can spend $1 to break a sentry subroutine. So he's going to run against this. Now the corporation is going to take a look at this, and he's going to take a look at that and say, okay, this has a strength of 0, and it also has these 2 subroutines: trash 1 program, which basically means discard a program, or end the run. It's going to cost him $4 to flip this over. So you can say, you know what, I'm going to do it. So he's going to flip, he's going to spend 4 credits, and he's going to flip it over. So now the runner has to contend with this. He's got to deal with this. Well, he's in good shape to begin with because he's got 3 strength. So that means he can encounter and get rid of all of these things here. Now if he didn't want to, he could just say, okay, screw it, I'm going to let these bad things happen to me. Well, in this case, he doesn't want that because one of the bad things that's going to happen to him is to end the run. Okay? So when he's got enough strength, he can match this, then he can deal with these subroutines. To deal with the subroutines, he's got to have an ability to do that. So this one, thankfully, is break a sentry subroutine for $1. Well, this is a sentry ice, so there's different types of ice in the game. So he's going to encounter that. He's going to say, okay, I'm going to pay $1, so I don't have to trash a program, and I'm going to pay another $1, more importantly, to not end the run. So he's bypassed this piece of ice. He's going to encounter this piece of ice. So if he didn't pay a buck to end the run would end. So now the corporation has a chance to take a look at this piece of ice. And so let's take a look at it here. So he's got $3 to put it up, and it's a barrier, and this is 3 power. However, let's, for argument's sake, he doesn't have $3 to res it, okay? Now if you'd res it on a previous turn, it's going to stay res. So now the runner is going to kind of know what he has to deal with and know which kind of cards he's got to fish for and get through to, get into this remote server. Let's say he's out of money, okay? Stupidly, he ran out of money, and that's too bad because this is a barrier type of ice, and he doesn't have a program, let's say, that will break it, because this is only breaking Sentry subroutines. And there's other programs that will break, all types of subroutines, but they're usually not as strong or as good. Okay, so he's going to miss that, and then he's going to hit this. So we're going to encounter this. Oh, lucky him, it's an agenda. So the runner will take the agenda and put it in a score pile. However, if for some reason the corporation player is able to get a 4th advancement token on there, he would immediately score it. And then this would now go into a score pile and have the ability, if the runner is tagged, this will deal 1 meat damage or 1 damage to the guy's hand for an action. So it's really good that he got this not only for the points, but then the corporation doesn't have this powerful ability where he'd be able to spend actions and blow away the runner's hand. So this is very simple, okay? Now there's a lot that's going to go on. There's all kinds of different things like traces, and we talked about the tags, the damages that'll happen, the different subroutine types, and the program types, and the resources will all kind of enhance the experience there and the complexity of these runs. But I just want to give you a basic idea of how it works. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. I'm going to cut a little bit out of it. There's some other things I didn't go into. I just don't want to bog down in the minutia and the detail too much. There's a lot in there. Like one thing I didn't go over is you can actually, as the corporation, install upgrades on each of your servers. So behind your identity card, behind your deck, behind all the remote servers, you can put upgrades in there to give you sort of different abilities and effects. You can do a run against the corporation's discard pile if you're the runner. So if you wanted to run in there and maybe he's got an agenda or something in there, which would be really dumb, then you can do a run on that. You maybe have certain decks that will give you sort of bonuses for making runs against the HQ or the discard pile and things like that. And you can actually discard cards face down if you're the corporation into the discard pile. So you may try to slip an agenda in there. That wouldn't be a very good idea, but there's a lot of bluffing and things like that happening. And as I said in the walkthrough, the runner is going to want to run early. Just make a run. Make a run on his deck. You may get lucky, but you may also be able to see what cards are coming up for the corporation. You may be able to trash a card, because if you attack a server and like an asset or his hand or something, you can pay to trash the card. Otherwise it just goes back. But then you know what he's got. And you're also going to be able to expose all of the ice that he's got. So you're going to kind of know what you're dealing with, the different types of ice, what the different damages are going to do. There's a lot of things that are going to end the run. He's probably got an agenda behind that, if that's the case. So there's a lot of metagaming kind of going on with inside just one game. And I spoke at the beginning a little bit about, it is irritating that there's basically 20 cards that they could have printed one more copy of. And then you would have at least two of every card. And then you could get one set and another set if you wanted to be real serious about the deck building. And that's all you would need. But in this case, now you got to buy 3 sets. And that third set's going to be for 20 cards. So the MSRP is like $40 for 20 cards. That's irritating, man. It's really irritating. But I'm not going to play it that seriously. And a buddy of mine, he's got a copy, I got a copy, so we'll just make our decks and play against each other. It's not the end of the world, but it'd be cool, because when you get into that deck building mode, forget about the marketing and the cost of production and everything. I'm just talking about purely from a game sense. When you get into that mode of like building decks, you're like, God, I really would like a third one of these. It would, even if I'm wrong, that third card would really make me feel like my deck is as good as it can be. So just from a purely frustrated gamer point of view, it sucks. So, I like the game though. That's really my only drawback, is the way they package it. I would not recommend the game because of that, because I think there's enough in this box. You got 7 starter decks, that you can make, and then you got a ton of variety that you can play with. So you're going to get hours and hours out of this. Components are really good. The art's great. The little chits, they're nice and decent thickness, like Fantasy Flight usually does. Rulebook's good. There's a lot of cool things. Like I didn't talk about traces. I didn't talk about tags. I didn't talk about all kinds of stuff. I'm forgetting stuff now. But you know, there's each kind of deck and identity has their own sort of flavor and theme and sort of effect that they're going for. You know, quicker, middle, end game, and things you got to watch out for. Like the trace thing. I'm not going to even explain it, but there's one deck that goes full on trace, and if you don't have anything to defend it, which are links, then you're going to be in a world of trouble. So the whole metagame really kicks in as far as how you play that game, how you build your decks and things like that. So, and it's cool, man. It's just like this two asymmetric sides, and you really kind of get the idea of that you're hacking into this evil corporation, and you can take on the role of the evil corporation. And the whole idea that all these people are sort of plugged into this cyberpunk, you know, living internet kind of world. It's pretty cool. It's fun. So I hope it, I mean, I know it'll do well, and I'm looking forward to seeing expansions and stuff. I may pick up a second copy. I don't think I'll get a third because I just feel like a silly person, but, you know, paying $30, let's say, for an online store price of 20 cards. It's like, well, whatever. But I'll probably get some little mini expansions and stuff. It'll be fun. So yeah, check it out. You know, it's great. It's a high quality game. It's from Richard Garfield, and you know, he's obviously the man when it comes to game design. So get it. I know it's coming out here in a couple weeks. Go get it.